Well, welcome, folks, to this edition of the 700 Club. The United Kingdom has been hit with 3 terrorist strikes in less than 3 months. Could the same types of deadly attacks happen here in America to you or to your family?
CBN's national security correspondent Eric Gonzalez looks at why Europe has suffered from so many of these brutal attacks in recent years and why we also have to be careful here in the United States.
While the investigation continues into the UK terror attacks, the United States Department of Homeland Security says it has no evidence of a specific credible terror threat in the United States, but is advising Americans to maintain security awareness. But is maintaining security awareness enough? Just weeks ago, Department of Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly told a media outlet that the American public would never leave their home if they knew what he knew about terrorist threats. So has the U.S. just been lucky?
If we don't stop the jihadists, what we see in Europe today will happen in America as well.
Former foreign policy advisor to President Trump, Dr. Waleed Phares, says the reasons for more attacks in Europe than the U.S. is partly due to geography. Not only is Europe closer to the Middle East, but jihadis have been migrating there since the 1950s and 60s. Phares says failures by British intelligence have also allowed radical Muslims to organize.
London is being too politically correct because its establishment did not tolerate any criticism of jihadism. And therefore, if you don't stop the jihadists, they're going to grow. And if you don't stop them really, they're going to attack, and that's what they did.
He adds in many cases, British law enforcement has their hands tied because certain actions against specific religious groups might cause political backlash and even scandal.
If there is a large Muslim population, if I can get those people off the fence, if I can inspire them to do something, I don't need to go myself.
Commander William Marks is with the Defense Intelligence Agency. He says radical Muslims are leaving Europe for training in the Middle East.
There they get training in both fighting and communication. Then from there, sometimes they either return back to their country of origin or they communicate back to those countries to try to incite terror.
Experts say because the United States has been at war with ISIS and al-Qaeda for years, we've developed tools to detect and vet radicals. But they add Americans must remain on guard and report anything suspicious. Eric Rosales, CBN News.
Well, one of the men involved in the London attack Saturday had been known to British authorities. They should have done something about it, but they didn't. John Jessup has that.
That's right, Pat. British law enforcement didn't consider that man to be dangerous before he was involved in Saturday night's deadly attack in London. Mark Martin has more.
Investigators had known for years that one of the suspected attackers, 27-year-old Khurram Butt, wanted strict Islamic Sharia law to be upheld in the UK. A British TV documentary even featured Butt. It was called The Jihadis Next Door, and he'd been seen on TV unfurling an ISIS flag. A neighbor even called an anti-terror hotline to give a tip about his threats. This man's wife had previously reported Butt to police because he had tried to radicalize her children.
I don't know what kind of madness took him to do such a madness thing and leave two beautiful kids. But I don't know.
Experts say these incidents lead officials to ask if they could have stopped the attack.
We always ask ourselves, well, should we have known? Could this have been prevented?
The Saturday night attacks with a van and knife in central London left nearly 60 wounded and 7 people dead, including Canadian Chrissy Archibald and James McMullen of London.
While our pain will never diminish, it is important for us to all carry on with our lives in direct opposition to those who would try to destroy us.
In addition to Khurram Butt, a British citizen born in Pakistan, authorities have identified 30-year-old Rashid Radwan as a suspected terrorist in the attack. Both men lived in the same East End London neighborhood. Radwan is from Libya or Morocco. Police fatally shot them, along with the third identified suspect, 22-year-old Youssef Zagba. He is believed to be an Italian national of Moroccan descent. London's mayor, who is Muslim, spoke directly to terrorists.
As a proud and patriotic British Muslim, I say this: you do not commit these disgusting acts in my name.
Khan and President Donald Trump got into a minor feud after the attack, with Khan saying the British government should cancel an upcoming state visit by the president. after Trump criticized Khan on Twitter for some of his remarks after the attacks. But British Prime Minister Theresa May stood by the London mayor without commenting on the president's statements. After the deadly tragedy in London, coming on the heels of other recent terrorist attacks in the UK, the top British counterterrorism official says authorities plan to dramatically change their strategy. Mark Martin, CBN News.
Thanks, Mark. Pat, back to you.
Well, as I've said on this program before, I say it again, ISIS is a cancer that needs to be removed. You know, if you have cancer in your body, you either treat it with chemo or you do surgery, but you get rid of it. And that thing in Raqqa is a cancer. Now, I understand that we have got forces moving in against Raqqa, but we need to destroy ISIS, literally destroy it. And it's not a question of bringing them to justice. The question is of just eliminating them. They're brutal, and they need to be dealt with brutality. We need to get rid of them. And that means that center of poison has got to be eliminated. And then we need to root out all their branches around the world, and they have spread and metastasized in an incredible fashion. From just a few people to tens of thousands of them now, and more and more and more. As long as it looks like they're winning, then people want to get on board. It's got to be shown to the world they're not a winner, and what the president said was exactly right. They're a bunch of losers. We need to show them as losers. John?
Pat, back here at home, a 25-year-old woman has been charged with leaking a classified report with top-secret information into the investigation on Russian interference in last year's election. Reality Winner was a contractor for the National Security Agency. She is the first person charged in a case involving leaks under President Trump's administration, showing that the government will be going after those who leak. The website The Intercept reported Monday that it had obtained an NSA document saying Russian hackers attacked at least one U.S. voting software supplier just days before the election. The story also said the NSA report did not indicate that the voting machines or votes had been compromised. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court did not review an appeal from a Christian Marine who was punished for posting a Bible verse in her office. Lance Corporal Monica Sterling was court-martialed and given a bad conduct discharge after refusing to remove the verse. Monday's decision upholds lower court rulings stating that her superiors did not place a, quote, substantial burden on her First Amendment right to religious expression. Sterling's legal team disagrees with the court's decision, saying they will work even harder to ensure religious freedom for U.S. service members. Well, kids across America are enslaved in a life of prostitution through human trafficking, but many are working to set them free. Paul Strand brings us a story of one group whose unique approach includes a simple household item.
This room filled with the bustle of volunteers stuffing bags prominently labeled soap. It's to fight sex trafficking, the second leading crime in America. There's a group trying to do something about sex trafficking called SOAP, Save Our Adolescents from Prostitution, SOAP. And they've actually found a way to use soap. The bags are filled with bars of soap that have the phone number for the National Human Trafficking Hotline on the wrapper. The volunteers carry them to hotels and motels all around the Washington, D.C. area. Soap founder Teresa Flores got a text from someone who told her the soap wrapper had been a success.
And it said, "You are the reason I'm free." I found a bar of soap in Chicago, and it gave me a reason to get out.
The volunteers gave out folders containing warning signs for desk clerks to watch out for, and also photos of missing girls who might be among the potentially thousands of sex trafficking victims in the U.S. right now. Flores was around when a photo of a missing girl worked recently.
And the clerk said, she just checked in 20 minutes ago with an older man, and she's 15, right? And so we were able to call the authorities and go get her immediately.
Barbara Amaya was sex trafficked from the age of 12 to 22. She says children are a favorite among those who pay for sex.
And I was trafficked in the streets of New York from the age of 12 to 21 or 22. Not once did any one of those men ever say, "Wait a minute, hold on, you're just too young."
Flores was sex trafficked too and says the damage never really goes away.
It's lifelong. When you are trafficked, if it's for a weekend, if it's for 2 years or 5 years, it doesn't matter. You're really broken for forever, and it takes a lot to heal.
You may think you don't have any tools to fight sex trafficking, but it could be as simple as a piece of paper or a bar of soap. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Arlington, Virginia.
Thanks, Paul. Lawmakers in the Senate are urging President Trump to move the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The Senate voted 90-0 Monday night on a resolution honoring the 50th anniversary of the reunification of Jerusalem during the Six-Day War in 1967. The resolution also calls on the president and all U.S. officials to abide by a 1995 law that urged then-President Bill Clinton to move the embassy. White House officials say it's only a matter of when, not if, the president follows through on his campaign promise to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Pat, back to you.
Well, I think armed with that kind of bipartisan vote in the Senate, the president can just very easily say, look, the United States Congress has spoken, the United States of America stands by our friends in Israel, and we acknowledge that Jerusalem is their capital. And I think it would be a non-event. There's nobody going to demonstrate on account of that. It's not going to destroy our relationship with the Arabs. I mean, let's face it, that's where the capital of Israel is. It's Jerusalem. The government offices of the nation of Israel are located in Jerusalem. And for us to go through this fiction of saying, well, it's really in Tel Aviv is just nonsense. So the State Department has been so afraid of the Arab backlash, but there's not going to be any backlash. Well, what are they going to do? The Russians have already done it. So we've got cover now, the United States Senate and the Russians. So it doesn't take a lot of bravery to move the embassy and do what we should have done a long time ago. Terry, it's a good day.
It is a good day. It's a great day, actually. And here's one of the reasons why, speaking of Israel. We have had an overwhelming response at the box office and sold-out theaters across the nation for CBN's docudrama on the Six-Day War. So Fathom Events is extending the film In Our Hands, The Battle for Jerusalem, for one final night, and that night is tonight, June the 6th, in select theaters. This is your last chance to see CBN's docudrama on the Six-Day War on the big screen. So if you'd like to get tickets, just go to inOurHands1967.com. Well worth your time. You'll appreciate it.
Before you go to the next thing, I want to point out to people who live, I believe, in New Jersey and Virginia, we've got a couple of primaries coming up that may have a considerable significance in selecting future leaders, and I would urge people to make their plans to vote. It's the 13th, I believe, of June coming up, so just a week.
So some significant positions being filled.
Really important. I mean, governors. I mean, the governor of Virginia, the governor of New Jersey, and I mean, these are for the particular Republican or independent or Democrat, but nevertheless, they're party positions, but these will go into the general election as the candidates. So it's very important, and so there hasn't been a lot of publicity about it, but I think if you live in those two states, you ought to make your plan to vote.